So the GoPro Hero 11 Black just came out, and up until now my go-to FPV camera has actually been the DJI Action 2. So I want to put these head to head to see which is the better FPV camera and should I switch. Also just in general, which is a better camera overall.
Now I think it is worth mentioning that the DJI Action 2 and Action 3 perform an identical image currently. There is an update with 10-bit coming to the Action 3 in the future, but as of now, the image you get from the two cameras is the exact same.
So to test these two cameras out, we decided to take a little day trip by taking the train from Dijon, which is where we live, to a small city called Besançon, which is in the east of France near the Switzerland border. And it's a beautiful little city. From there, we found this nice little spot on the river to test out the cameras. And the idea is to use this dual camera setup, which allows us to put the cameras side by side to directly compare them to one another.
So the whole thing was super wobbly, and it must be because it's extra weight. I'm going to try tighten it, but if that doesn't work, I'm going to have to do them one by one. So after that flight with the GoPro, it sounded really strange, like it was vibrating. And when I brought it back, the motors are literally so hot, I can't even touch them without burning my fingers. And they don't smell too great either, which is a really bad sign.
So we're back now, and I just need to explain what happened. I think because that dual mount was so heavy and shifted the center of gravity so much, what happened is that the drone was actually a bit overloaded. It started oscillating, which basically burnt out the motors a bit. And from there, it meant that it can't even fly smoothly with an Action 2 now, let alone a GoPro 11. So I think I'm gonna have to replace these motors and it should be fine, which is pretty unfortunate, but at least now I know that that setup won't work. So my only option now is to put the cameras back on that dual mount and test them around on my one wheel. I'm going to be going through a bunch of different settings and features that all relate to FPV, and we'll see which one comes out on top.
This first one is just a test run with stabilization off on both cameras, and you can see I did try and make it quite bumpy to mimic a really bad scenario for an FPV drone. This is the same run, now with stabilization turned on. And in terms of settings, they're going to be identical on both cameras for maximum quality. Both cameras are in 25 FPS, 1/100th of a second shutter speed, ISO 100 and 5500 Kelvin. The major difference is that the GoPro can go up to that almost square aspect ratio of 8:7, whereas the Action 2 can only go to 4:3. On top of that, the GoPro can go to 5.3K and has 10-bit color. Whenever I shoot with the Action 2, I always use the de-warp setting, which crops in a little to remove all fisheye from the lens, and I really like how it does this straight out of the camera with minimal crop. If you want to remove the fisheye internally on the GoPro, you have to switch it to linear mode, which looks good, but it does crop in quite a lot, and you also lose that 8:7 aspect ratio, and you have to drop down to 8-bit color. For this reason, I'd always recommend using Real Steady for the GoPro instead of the Hyper Smooth built in. Real Steady also removes the fisheye with minimal crop in. Since they added Real Steady to the GoPro player, I find it so much easier to use, and it also exports a lot faster. So because of that, I've kind of changed my opinion on Real Steady. Now, it's no secret that Real Steady works like magic, as you can see in these clips. But unfortunately, you can still only export from Real Steady in a 16:9 aspect ratio. But I have heard from GoPro reps that in future versions of Real Steady, they will allow you to choose an export aspect ratio, which is really nice because it means we can actually take advantage of the new tall sensor when exporting vertical videos. Now these are the final exports with the best settings applied and best stabilization applied to get the best possible image from each camera. While it is really nice that you get this image straight out of the Action 2, and with the GoPro you still have to use Real Steady, I have to give the win to the GoPro. The reasons being it's a higher resolution of 5.3K, the colors coming straight out of the camera are more natural, and they're also easier to color grade because of the 10-bit color. I also see slightly more dynamic range in the GoPro and slightly better stabilization results. thanks for watching, and I've got quite a few really cool videos planned based around FPV drones coming out soon, so subscribe if you'd like to see those in the future.